Welcome into the Beat Sessions, the place for all things music and where we do the listening for you. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It's Friday, June 2nd. I hope the week has been fantastic to all of you and that the weekend promises some respite, some relaxation. Very exciting week. Lots of album releases dropping today, but I would be remiss if we did not kick the week off with this brand new record from Foo Fighters titled But Here We Are. This is the band's 11th studio album and their follow up to 2021's Medicine at Midnight. I think anyone watching this album review knows that this is the first album that the band has released without Taylor Hawkins since his passing last year in March. Tough to even know where to begin this album review. This is definitely one of the best records of the year, and it just might be one of the most like bittersweet things I've ever heard. I'm gonna keep this thing kind of loose. Honestly, I keep trying to do this review, and it just makes me a little emotional, man. It's really powerful, the way that this band came to the table, especially Dave. Dave taking up drum duties on this record. I know the band announced that Josh Freese is going to take up drum duties while they're on tour, which I think is a fantastic call. That guy has worked with everybody. He is such a solid musician, and I think at any point that, the band, given their direction on the last few albums, trying to mix things up, take things in a different direction with that Foo Fighter sound being at the foundation. If they decide that they want to get back to that dynamic ever, I think Josh is the guy to bring into the studio to lend them whatever sound they need. He's just that dynamic, much like Taylor. He's a studio drummer, though, and there's probably not many people that are familiar with Josh Freese. Not anything against the guy. I think it's more a testament to the type of guy that Taylor Hawkins was. Most people aren't familiar with the drummer in their favorite rock and roll outfit, or many rock and roll outfits for that matter. But Taylor was the type of guy that, aside from being a drummer, during live shows, he would come up, take up singing duties, and just be all over the place. He was a presence. He was a force. He was, honestly, like, I think of a guy like Keith Moon as far as his energy and just, certainly not as crazy on stage. As far as antics and everything, it's like I don't even want to get into it because it's just so sad to even like go there and talk about, that aspect of his character and how it ultimately, pretty much led to his demise. But the guy is just, he was just so much fun to watch on stage and to listen to, and so impossible to replace. I think that Josh filling in and sitting behind the kit and taking up the role on the Skins is a perfect move as far as his skill set and not trying to match the personality that was behind that kit before, because that's never ever going to happen. This record, I think, talking about the bittersweet, I think one of the coolest things about this album is listening to it, and there was so much about it that reminded me of the Foo Fighters' self-titled debut. And in listening to it twice and in having this thought, reading that Dave actually, so much of the muse was trying to dive back into that original sound, a sound that, Taylor wasn't even a part of really. He didn't drum on the color and the shape either. Had some like studio credits there as far as bonus tracks and some other stuff, and he was starting to come into the band at that point, but wasn't featured on that album either. And so to hear this band get back to their original roots, and I've heard it's really interesting to hear people talk about the first record and Dave doing all the instrumentation, that there wasn't necessarily this drive, this force, this elan, as the French like to say, the spirit. It's why him bringing in an entire band to help him realize his dream was so essential. Chris Shiflett is another guy that just, I loved him in No Use for a Name, Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, his brother Scott, and one of my favorite bands, Face to Face. I love him. I love all the guys that are in this band, and I know that all of them are hurting. This record, though, capturing that classic sound and paying homage to to not just Taylor, but to Dave's mom as well. 2022 was a really shitty year for Dave and for this outfit in general. She passed at an undisclosed time, and so big influence on him, big muse, and losing her just as just as much of a hit as losing Taylor, his best friend. And so the these songs, all these guys coming together, this is an outfit that over the years, I would say that the concepts of hope, optimism understate the drive of their music. This is a band that is wanting more than that. This is a band that is about valiance, about being triumphant, about just overcoming it. And there's a lot of opinions about that first record, as far as Dave's grief process. People, it was very interesting being alive at that time, people trying to dig cryptically at lyrics, trying to find meaning as far as Dave's mourning and stuff. And he's been very forthright about those songs obviously being released after Kurt's death, but a lot of them being written before his passing. The goal of a side project, doing something with a slightly different sound, more of an alternative sound, because Nirvana's alternative sounding, more grungy than anything. And I think the first time that all of us heard that self-titled Foo Fighters record, we were like, wow, this is pretty different, while there are definitely similarities. The big thing, and you're going to notice it on this new record, but here we are. You get the kind of mellow melodic verses, and then like the big booming choruses, big soaring melodies in there. And to a degree, it can become banal. I'd say if I'm going to give this record a criticism, that might be it. But other than that, knowing that this is a Foo Fighters record, expecting that element, wanting that, honestly, it's very welcome in all these tracks. And I think that the melodies that Dave and the band have put together and the hooks are fantastic. Greg Kurstin coming back on this thing, third record here. I can't imagine, on his end, what this task was like, just as far as, from a production standpoint, you try to be as influential while not, if that makes sense. And so, him working on this thing, I imagine it was painstaking as far as just trying to be a shoulder for these guys to lean on, being an ear, and having to manage that critical element while knowing that the band wants to put out a product that Taylor would be proud of, that he would want to listen to, that everybody's going to want to listen to, and still being able to constructively, bring to the table what this record needs as far as, conversation, criticism, all of those things. So, props to him on this thing. I think he did a marvelous job working with the band and co-producing this thing. One of the things I love about Dave Grohl that I think makes him so relatable, reminds me a lot of Bruce Springsteen, as far as, I don't think the guy has worked a 9 to 5 in his entire life, at least not in the last 30 years anyway. But this is a guy that, given his stature and his level of fame, is so down to earth and so relatable. And it just makes him so easy to love. We were talking about Dave Matthews, a few days ago. Great new record that he put out, in my opinion. I really like that new record. But that band, after the passing of Leroy, they went on stage that night, and a tough decision, but they talked to the crowd about how, in this process of mourning, like, we can't imagine where else we would want to be together after all these years, except for like right here where we would have been anyway. And there's a big element of that with the Foo Fighters. And there was that year where this band was hanging in the balance. This was a band that I think, in discussions with a lot of people thought that this band was done, that, Dave would continue making music, that all these guys would continue making music, but, not under the moniker of Foo Fighters. And I think that given that kind of like Springsteen-esque nature, that character of Dave, that had he not come back, like I don't even want to think about what that world would have been like. I think the fact that a guy like Dave Grohl losing his best friend and his mom in the same year, taking the time to deal with that hurt and to mourn, and like obviously he's still mourning. It's like you don't. It's a big part of this record. It's like you don't get over that stuff. Like you just you one day you realize that you're still here, and that those people that are no longer here would want nothing more for you to move forward and to live the best life that you possibly can. And so that's what you do. It's like you find a way to cope and move forward. And you're never the same person ever again. But for Dave to come back to all of us, for this band to come back to all of us, I think it means so much. I think that I don't know how much these guys will realize how much the return of this outfit, again, giving the band's attitude over the years. I mean, just you can go to all of their hit songs and even more throughout their catalog. But this is a band that, again, not just hopeful and optimistic, but like triumphant and valiant. And we're not here to just climb the mountain. We're here to get to the very top. That's the thing about Dave that I love. And in saying that, and in doing a lot of reading in the last year, there might be some people that criticize that, maybe that was part of what brought around Taylor's demise. It's conjecture, so I don't even want to go there and talk about that. I just know that Dave Grohl is the type of man that has always been ambitious. There's never been any doubt about that. And, you know, whether or not that ambition led to that, I think that that is pain and grief and an experience that is going to be very obvious in this record. Not a just a flat out admission, but just knowing that you just feel like you take advantage. Like there was going to be more time to go out and just bullshit over a beer and a cigarette, or to have another concert, or when something like this happens, I think that's the toughest thing about the mourning process, is the endless circle of regret that can just beat you to death. And I think that for a certain time, it's important to kind of like cathartically lull all of those moments over, like maybe like what could have been, what might have been. Especially this is a band that, the day he passed, they put out an EP with all those songs that were featured in the horror film that they put out, Studio 666. This is a band that was really having a lot of fun. Like they were in a really good place, and just hit a brick wall. It's just really unfortunate that it has to happen. This album, as good as it is, this is a band that I think a lot of people would argue has struggled on the last few records, given their ambition, given that they've tried to branch out and do something different, which we all respect. If you follow a band after decades, there's a point where you have to test your artistry. You have to throw it out there and just see what people think. And if they throw it right back, then you don't do it again. But the last few records weren't bad, but I don't think a lot of people put them in the upper echelon of the Foo Fighters canon. This is an album that is going to be up there. I mean, just from the start, the first word in the title, but here we are. They could have called this thing "And Here We Are." They could have just called this thing "Here We Are." But here we are. The word "but" implies to the contrary. The word "but" implies this is not the fucking record that we thought we were going to make. But this is the record that we're making. This is the record that we had to make to move forward as individuals and as a band. It's really tough. This record is awesome. This record is really cool. Dave talked about putting together material pretty much hot after Medicine at Midnight and wanting to make a really proggy record. And there's some moments that reflect that for sure. But this is, I don't think this is the record that he initially set out to make. But uh, man, this is a group that it sucks under the circumstances, but they sound so revitalized. They sound like in the morning process they've come out um just energized with this with that spirit that you just hope for anybody that enters a dark place in their life. You hope that they come out of it. You hope that uh that they're just able to get through the grieving process and come out on the other side rescued, as the first track is titled. It's got a light opening riff, drums hit hard, more guitars work their way in. Really like the drums come in a bit frenzied after a bit. I really like that. It's just, and you can feel it. It's Dave on the kit like from the get go, and I think that adds a really unique element to this record as well. It sounds like the self-titled album in a lot of ways, with maturity, decades of just experience in songwriting and in life, and lyrically, just probably the greatest thing that Dave has ever done. Honestly, I'm loving the way that you get this big chorus that builds up, backs off the tempo as you get back into the end of the verses. Drums build into the coda nicely. It finishes with a really nice hook that's established in the song. You get this little frenzied outro. Just some of the lyrics to pull it up. It opens up. It came in a flash. It came out of nowhere. It happened so fast, and then it was over. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Is this happening now? Are you feeling what I'm feeling? Is this happening now? And the big refrain in the song, I'm just waiting to be rescued, bring me back to life. But it's a tough thing to listen to, honestly, right off the bat, and it's a pretty good indication that this is a record that is very much about mourning the loss of Taylor. Rescue Me Tonight, Rescue Me Tonight, that refrain towards the end. The second song, Under You, brilliant song as well, lyrically. The big thing that gets me here, someone said, I'll never see your face again. Part of me just can't believe it's true. Pictures of us sharing songs and cigarettes. This is how I'll always picture you. And he talks about someday I'll come out from under you, out from under you. It sounds by the finish of this record that Dave and the group have come out from under Taylor, but damn it, if for that year it wasn't just a brutal task of trying to recover, trying to get to that place where you can move on without him. Hearing Voices is your third song. It is got this breezy electric guitar. You know what? I didn't get the music under you. Excuse me. It's got this fun '90s alternative distorted guitar, which I like the music on this thing. As hard as the lyrics were, I like the fuzzy, grungy feel. It's got this excellent melodic dynamic to it too. It's almost kind of like poppy grunge, so to speak. If I mean, it almost sounds like a curse word to some people, but it's a really nice sounding song. Just really, really catchy. Leading into your third track, Hearing Voices, which is gonna have breezy electric guitar, builds on this desert rock feel. I really like that element to the track. Nice groove and rhythm guitar in the bass. It's got this kind of like new wave and goth feel to it a bit. Chorus, feels a bit shoegazy, kind of opens up and gets a little big. Sultry track, really has a nice feel to it. Fourth song, But Here We Are, is got the sharp electric guitar and vocal to open, cool little breakbeat percussion, and I really like the just the way this lets the riff open up. Just got this like big chunky feel that kind of just carries the song. Lots of textures that develop. And then you get this ambient shoegazy riff that works into the background on this thing. Big coda to close. It's a fun song. I gotta highlight that the shoegazy element of this album really is very nicely done. There's a lot on this thing that listening to that new Smashing Pumpkins record. I don't mean to go there, and I hear a lot of people talking about concept and stuff. There's a big concept driving this album as well. I think that that's just a big difference right here. And you have two guys that are writing music for roughly the same amount of years, and I don't know. There's just something about Dave and the way that he's able to connect with people. Songs like these that are so personal and it's so very obvious what they're about, but he's writing to connect to us versus Billy, who's writing about spaceships. And if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But I prefer this connection with Dave. I think that's what made Billy so special back in the day, is that angst, that connection that you felt with him. And it's just not there, not the way that that I think so many people are gonna really feel connected with this record. The Glass is your fifth song, man. This lyrically is, I just want to pull some of these up because these are worth highlighting. I had a vision of you, and just like that, I was left to live without it. Left to live without it. I found a version of love, and just like that, I was left to live without it. Left to live without it. And certainly his mom, part of this song as well. Waiting for this storm to pass. Yeah, waiting for the storm to pass, waiting on this side of the glass. But I see my reflection in you, see your reflection in me. How could it be? How could it be? Um, just a really beautiful song, acoustic vocal intro, textures that slowly develop on this thing. Chorus hits with this nice big hook. Second verse is going to maintain that build, and then song builds into the coda nicely. It's really a pretty powerful number there. Nothing at All is your sixth track. Drums roll to open on this thing. Guitars work in to play off each other. Really nice dynamic there. I like the way that the guitars are playing on this thing. There's like this ska kind of reggae feel that's going to really carry this song. Chorus fills out big. Nice melody. Great way to kick off the B-side of this record. Show Me How is your seventh song. Big shoegazy feel on this thing. Really like the tone of the guitars on this track. Bit of an echo in the Bunnymen. Definitely a big My Bloody Valentine kind of feel. But it's that breezy kind of acoustic element that reminds me of Echo and the Bunnymen, and just their kind of particular sound and new wave. Daughter Violet is helping out on lyrical duties here. Great harmonies between the two of them. I really dig that. Violet's actually going to close out this track. So that's, just Love and Dave working with his daughter on this thing. I think that's pretty cool that they showed up together. Beyond Me is your eighth track. Piano and vocal to open. Get some soft bass that works its way in. Piano is really simple, but it's pretty. I like that dynamic. I'm just kind of a sucker for that simple kind of piano balladry there. Chorus fills out into that big anthemic style. There's a great little guitar solo that leads into the coda here. And then I got to take a sip of water before we talk about this next track. The Teacher is your penultimate track. This might be like one of the coolest, most ambitious things that the Foo Fighters have ever done. Big 10-minute track, and talking about Dave and that proggy feel, not wanting to be that same 90s alternative rock band. The reason for why they've tried to branch out on their last few records. Talk about making this a prog record. This song, The Teacher, reference to his mom there, her vocation in her life. You got this light alternative guitar, feels a bit like Sonic Youth, just shoegazy elements there that, yeah, again, My Bloody Valentine, Mazzy Star, this thing it rules, honestly. It reminded me of like Sonic Youth with that Foo Fighters drive, with that little bit of that kick and that punch, that love for punk rock and kind of heavier stuff that they have. But strings build in nicely behind the guitars on this thing, and then it hits about a minute and 30 in. And I really like the up-tempo drums, and then they just build into this like big galloping feel. And like the middle part of the song for like 3 minutes, from about minute 2 to minute 5, the way it unfolds is just mesmerizing. It's so much fun to listen to. Just like the hooks, the developer phenomenal, excuse me. And then like right around 5.5 minutes, this thing backs off, mellows out. You're getting just the electric guitar, vocal, tiny bit of bass that's kind of like working in intermittently. And then the way he's singing Goodbye in the coda, this thing, it just kind of explodes towards the end. And then he's just like, goodbye, goodbye. And it gets so intense and so frenzied, and it just stops. And then your final song is Rest, your 10th track. And it's this gentle acoustic and vocal intro. You get this light electric guitar that works in, and then these big fuzzy guitars hit with this gong around like 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And in the back half of this track is this just nice big fuzzy affair in that, anthem style, big studio, arena sound that it's a great dynamic as far as the peaceful element of just rest. It's Dave coming to terms, the rest of the band coming to terms. Uh, this record is not for the faint of heart. It's don't try to listen to this thing if you're feeling a little vulnerable. I would say that prepare yourself, maybe even pour a glass of wine, twist up a joint, do what you got to do. But I think the coolest thing about this record, ultimately, after all that has been said here, is that this is the band mourning and coming to terms with his loss. And I think for a lot of ways, given the relationship that all of us feel with Dave, that artistic connection, again, that Springsteen-esque quality that he has, that kind of working man ethos, it's something that's going to hit all of us. It might hit you the whole way through from start to finish. This thing, it wrecked me the first time I listened to it. I basically couldn't stop crying for like 45 minutes. Give it that second listen. I think you'll be able to focus a little more and kind of enjoy the nuances after that first cathartic experience. But this record's really powerful. It's not the record that I think any of us wanted, but damn it if it isn't fantastic. Big time vinyl please here. I really hope you all enjoy this record. Hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help us blow this project up in 2023. Stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.